gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, CaneSport. It's January the 24th, 2024. I'm Gary Ferman, the publisher of CaneSport.com, joined this morning by our managing editor, Matt Shodell, as we discuss the news of the day. And it's an exciting one, folks. We have a football schedule for 2024 now. ACC released all of the dates last night. And very interesting schedule, Matt. And you know, I'll just start this conversation off by saying that when I look at this schedule, I'm scared to death. Okay. And not probably for the reason that somebody might be thinking right now, hearing me say that. I'm scared to death because, and you can't play the one-loss game. I get that. But when I look at this schedule, I mean, if this team doesn't win 10, 11 games next year, to me, it's underachievement. And the reason I'm scared is because when I look at the program right now and where it's at from a talent standpoint, and it is getting better. Getting Cam Ward obviously is a huge addition. A couple other decent transfer portal additions. Recruiting has been going well, but it's still a relatively young team devoid of an enormous amount of impact talent. And so when I look at the roster, my thinking is this team is not ready to be an 11-win team. When I look at the schedule, I'm saying anything less is an underachievement. Matt, how do I reconcile all this?
Look, if Miami is an average team, then they're playing all average teams, except, actually, I think they're all average teams next year. I mean, Florida, 5-7, Florida A&M, not the same level. Ball State, not the same level. USF, not the same level, was 7-6. Virginia Tech was 7-6. Cal was 6-7. That's your first 6 games. Yeah. Louisville's a decent team on the road. They were 10-4. Florida State lost a ton of talent off their 13-1 team. Then you got Manny Diaz and Duke, which was 8-5. But I mean, come on, at home that's going to be a win. At Georgia Tech, which was 7-6. Wake Forest was 4-8, and at Syracuse, which was 6-7. I mean, there's no team on that schedule that you say, oh, Miami can't beat that team. But that's if Miami's good, and we don't know if Miami's going to have it all come together. I mean, with Cam Ward at quarterback, if the defense can even be close to what it was this past year, like not even the same, just close, this team should win virtually all of its games, maybe with a hiccup or two. But we've seen how this has gone. Every year for the last 20 years, it seems like the expectations are similar to this. Tyler Van Dyke was the ACC rookie, of the offensive rookie of the year. He's going to be amazing. Miami's going to win 11, 12 games. Whatever. I mean, you name the year, you tell me any season where we're sitting here right now saying Miami can't win 10 or 11 games, because every year we say it. Now, I'm the pessimist. I've always, I predicted 8 wins the last 2 years. And I've already said before this schedule that they're going to win 10 games next year and then be in the playoffs the year after. But with this schedule, no NC State, no Clemson, with this schedule and no out-of-conference opponents that are any good, there's no reason Miami shouldn't win 10 or 11 games this year and be in the playoffs just because of the schedule. Like, they're not a playoff team. This is not a playoff caliber roster by any stretch of the imagination. They'll be blown out if they're having to face, a top seed early in the playoffs, in my opinion, because they won't be that good as they appear record-wise. But it'll be nice to have some hype and have a good record and stuff like that. So to me, the whole key to the whole season, honestly, is one game. And that's at Florida, because Florida has talent too. Florida, I know a lot of Florida fans, as everybody does. They're super annoying. We all know that. But they're realists now. Like they're sort of, they've been humbled. They're not on their high horse like they used to be, holier than thou and all that. Well, I guess that's Notre Dame. But they still think they're holier than thou. And my Florida friends are like, yeah, I don't know they're going to be real good unless they're, this 5-star quarterback or whatever is amazing or whatever, or some crazy thing happens where they have some young guys just all of a sudden step up that are better than what they think they have coming back. So if Miami can win at Florida, you're going to beat Florida A&M. You're going to beat Ball State. You're going to win at USF. No reason you should lose at home to Virginia Tech. And it's like what we were talking about this past season. You start 5-0, then you go to not a really good Cal team, 6-0. And then you have an open date, and then you have at Louisville against Florida State and against Duke. Probably your toughest 3-game stretch of the whole year. And I think Duke's going to have some struggles this year. So really just toughest 2-game stretch to me, personally. Sorry, Dukies. And that's it.
At Louisville and Florida State are both going to be tough games, obviously.
Yeah. But that's it. Like, who else on the schedule on paper is it even supposed to be close? So you're right. You should be scared, because if Mario manages to lose 4 or 5 games this year, it's going to be ugly, because they're losing to bad teams. Like, if you lose 5 games this year, you're losing to bad teams. You're a Miami Hurricanes basketball team at that point, playing not last night against Notre Dame, where they looked awful but managed to beat a really bad team. But, the 5 games before that where you lose 4, that you probably should have won a couple of them at least. And you know what? Miami's going to have the same problems as basketball. They're going to have injuries to not be good, because the depth on this team isn't great. But I think the starters are going to be pretty good. Jakari Brown already pronounced on this crazy webcast he did that they're going to get a portal wide receiver who's going to take the top off of defense, which they definitely need that. But aside from that, on offense, I like where everything goes. One of my big fans was saying on the message boards how smart I was to say the offensive line was dominant compared. What I was trying to say was it was dominant compared to the year before. Of course, it wasn't dominant, and everyone took that and ran with it. So it's all all fun and games or whatever. But I think the offensive line maybe won't be quite as good as last year, but it'll be good enough. And especially with a mobile Cam Ward, who does get the ball out quickly and can have some escapability and make plays with his legs, there should be no issues there. The running back room, I don't know if Mark Fletcher's status, if he'll be okay, but regardless, coming off that
he's gonna miss spring practice.
Yeah, I know.
And he's hoping to get back early next season. Right. He had a pretty significant injury.
Yeah, I know. So we'll see what his status is. But notwithstanding that, you still have Henry Parrish. You have even Trevante Citizen coming back off a major knee injury. Maybe he'll be able to help. They added the Mark Fletcher thing. It takes on more of a serious note to me by them taking the FSU transfer. Like, that to me says, I'm not sure Mark Fletcher is going to be there, because with Mark Fletcher, if they expected Mark Fletcher to be healthy, fully healthy for game 1, that FSU transfer makes very little sense, because he's just going to sit on the bench. Like, it makes no. And I understand he's a preferred walk-on, whatever, but he had other opportunities. He's coming to Miami not to sit on the bench. He actually got reps in 10 games last year at Florida State.
Good luck. I don't know, man. We'll see.
Well, yeah, but the point is, you got Henry Parrish, you got A.J. Allen. I mean, I'm not looking at the running back depth chart. You got Trevante Citizen. You got a couple of, at least one really good freshman, maybe 2, depending if Chris winds up at defensive back or not. And then obviously you have the other Chris,
maybe Johnson maybe starts giving them a little bit next year.
Right. So running back room's fine. Like, what I'm trying to say, I don't want to get long-winded because I never am. The offense should be much better, in my opinion, overall, with Cam Ward at quarterback. And the defense, probably the secondary is going to have some issues. Linebackers should be fine. Defensive ends are going to be elite. Defensive tackles will be average. But that's good enough, because there were holes last year, too. Major injuries on the defensive line, and Lance Guidry found a way to figure it out. So I have a lot of faith in Lance Guidry being able to figure this out, make it work. So yeah, I mean, given this schedule, you look at the schedule and you just think to yourself, if they lose 4 or 5 games, it's a total disaster. And worst case scenario, 8-4, 7-5 heading to a bowl game, that would, in a normal year, the last 10 years, that's like normal. That's like an okay year. At least they didn't have a losing record and lose to FIU. But you're right. If they don't win 10 games with this schedule in year 3 of the Mario Cristobal era, stacking, essentially 3 classes, I know 2 full classes, but really 3 classes with supposedly development, with all the transfer portal guys, 3 years of double-digit transfer portal guys that he has chosen to put on this roster. If you're not winning 10 games against this schedule in year 3, then it's just there's something not right. So a
lot of pressure, though, man. A lot of pressure to take into the season. But I totally agree with you. And so like I run to I love our scholarship eligibility tracker, because you can really look and get a quick snapshot of the team. Which, by the way, if our counts are correct, which they should be, there are 8 scholarships over. So 8 guys are going to have to be cut after spring practice.
Probably more than that. They might take a receiver. They might take another cornerback. I think they're going to wind up cutting 10.
Yeah, so 10 is probably the more likely number. You're right.
10 to 12. Honestly, 10 to 12. Because, Mario, if somebody comes along and it's like the fresh fruit in the basket, we're taking the fresh fruit, throw out the rotten fruit or the old fruit or wherever you want to call it. And that's how Mario rolls. So who knows?
100%, as he should.
And if he sees in spring practice some stuff he doesn't like, he'll target that position in the portal also. That's the nice thing about the portal.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this. I'm saying, my God, how does this team not win 10, 11 games? And then I'm smacking myself and I'm saying, Gary, remember, they are breaking in a new quarterback. We don't know how that's going to go. It should go well. He's supposed to be the best quarterback in college football next year. So that should help enormously. I still don't think they have a number one receiver. I do think that they will try to pick that up in the portal the next go round, and we'll see who that guy ends up being. They got to get the tight ends back involved in the offense this spring, hopefully, and get back into the routine of throwing the ball to the tight end. I think they will do that with Cam Ward. Offensive line is right now not as good as last year. They have to develop that. So that'll be a big agenda in the spring. I'm still not totally overwhelmed by the upper class on the defensive line. We'll see how these transfers do. Alston, Cook, CJ Clark, we'll see how that goes with those guys. We'll see if Messidor makes it back on the outside, but obviously Ruben Bain will be back, but I'm not overwhelmed by the upper class on the D line, which usually is not good. You got to have some upperclassmen, and they've tried to get a little older there with those transfers, and it's going to be a huge key how impactful those guys can be. I still think the linebacker position is very suspect. We'll see. And the DBs, great job fortifying the safety position through the portal. But we just, again, none of these guys, Darryl Porter, none of these guys, Jadaeus Richard, totally distinguished themselves last year. So we got to see how they come back here in this next 2024 cycle as well. But there are a lot of question marks. And I think with the reinforcements, hopefully the defense can be at least right around the same level as the defense last year. The offense should be much better. And all that's going to have to come together for them to win 10, 11 games. But not winning 10, 11 games would be an absolute failure. They must go at least, to me, 10-2 next year to call the season a success. So it's going to be pretty interesting. If you wanted to play the one loss game right now, Matt, you would say at Florida, a program that's absolutely reeling, that doesn't have a lot of great talent coming back. They'll be fortunate to get back to 5-7 next year. In my opinion, I think this time next year we'll have said goodbye to Billy Napier. Obviously Florida A&M, Ball State, at USF, Virginia Tech, even at Cal, even though it's on the road. If you would play in the WL game, you're penciling those in as wins. So you would say, where are the losses going to come from? I look at Louisville. I think that'll be a very difficult game. Home against Florida State. Okay, those two obviously are hanging in the balance here as we play the one-loss game. You have to pray that Manny Diaz isn't coming in here to Hard Rock Stadium with his Duke football team and winning that game on November the 2nd. That would just be an absolute disaster for this program. If a first-year Manny Diaz at Duke comes into Hard Rock and beats the Canes, I don't even want to think about that possibility. At Georgia Tech tends to give Miami trouble. We know all about that. But by that point of the season, you're hoping Miami's got it rolling. Cam Ward is well connected with his teammates, and you can win that game on the road in Atlanta. And then you finish with 2 games at home. Well, you finish with a home game against Wake Forest and a road game at Syracuse, which, the weekend of Thanksgiving, which at least it's inside. It's indoors. It's going to be cold. It's going to be freezing up there in Syracuse more than likely, but at least the game itself is indoors. So, yeah, Matt, just to sum it up, like we said, the onus is on Mario to get this thing together, man. It's like, I feel for the pressure, but that's part of the job. And if you're looking at this schedule and this team, it's playoffs or bust next year. You don't get a schedule this favorable very often.
No, but at the end of the day, it's also just about the state of Miami, because they need to get the roster right. And even in year 3 of Mario, there's 62 players on the 85 plus, but it's going to be 85 roster, that are freshmen and sophomores right now. So 62 players. They have to get rid of 10 guys. So that's 72. So that means 13, seniors and juniors will be left, which is not going to happen, which means they're going to wind up jettisoning freshmen and sophomores. When you get up to a number like 10 that you have to get rid of, when you have 62 freshmen and sophomores, like, you're basically saying, I already made a mistake in recruiting, right? Because these are guys that Mario recruited. These are freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and true sophomores, okay? And there are some redshirt sophomores, not that many. But a lot of those guys were Mario recruits. And for him to already basically likely be saying goodbye to some of them, and Collins and Chiampong was already one of them who didn't work out here. But,
it's not great optics. It's not.
Right.
But
that's not great, because these are supposed to be the backbone of the program, the guys who are building the program. And I'm a big fan of recruiting and development. And Mario is known as a great recruiter. So if you're getting these great recruits and then you're jettisoning them after 2 or 3 years, did you not develop them? Did you make a mistake in recruiting? Like, that's what it looks like. So, and I don't think he's going to get rid of a lot of juniors and seniors. There's a couple of seniors, maybe they can jettison. Like, I saw 2, maybe 2. And there's not a lot of juniors. The juniors are all pretty much going to be playing roles. So, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what Mario does to get this roster down to 85. Somebody suggested he should make them all preferred walk-ons. Give them a lot of NIL money and just make them all preferred walk-ons. And I don't honestly know if that's even against the rules. Like, I don't know what the NCAA would do if you're at 95 and you just hand $100,000 to 10 guys and say, here's your scholarship money. We're listing you as a preferred walk-on now. Like, I don't know that that's against the rules. I don't know. Maybe that's Mario's grand master plan, If it is, kudos to him. That's the only thing that makes sense, by the way, because nobody wants to jettison young guys.
And, look, the optics aren't good, but it's part of the bullet that you're biting right now, trying to get this program right. You got to do what you got to do. If you made a mistake, you got to admit it. Holding on to a mistake long term is, you're not doing yourself a favor. You're not doing the kid a favor. If a kid is never going to play here, let him go somewhere where he has a chance to play. Well,
that's the problem. You don't know with second and third year guys who are redshirt sophomores. Have you seen players that have left Miami that they've kicked out that have been really good? There have been players that Miami's gotten rid of in recent years that have turned out pretty good.
I know.
Utah, there's been a bunch of them.
You knew Ruben Bain was good. And I'm not saying every freshman's going to be Ruben Bain, but wasn't that the standard at Miami when Miami was good? Like, didn't Miami have a dozen Ruben Bains in the starting lineup? Listen, it's time to frickin' take this thing to the next level. Like, raise the standard. And
Ruben Bain would not have started. He would have redshirted on the 2001 team. I mean, that's what they did back then.
I understand. So why can't you have
the best player on the entire defense would have redshirted on a championship team? Like, that's where Miami's at right now. Not that Ruben Bain's not amazing. He is. But he shouldn't have been playing on a championship team this past year. Maybe some backup reps, Yep. But he probably would have redshirted, in a perfect world, on some of these championship teams. So, that's just the state of where things are. This is not a top level Miami team at any position except, I guess, quarterback, for the starting quarterback. And that's about it. I can't think of another position. Maybe defensive end might be. Akeem Messer has so many injury problems. Nigel Kelly didn't look great in the time that he played before he got hurt. Then you bring in a Marshall guy who, that's a transition. So I don't know. Maybe that's the next best position at Miami, but defensive end isn't necessarily elite. So really, you just got a quarterback, a defensive end / defensive tackle. That's Ruben could play either, and then a bunch of guys, that are not elite championship level, that are really good players. I mean, Francisco Magoa. These are guys that can be great, can be elite, but can you say they're elite right now based on what we've seen? No. Other teams have, the really good teams have 5, 10, 15, sometimes even guys that you can say, oh yeah, we know those guys are elite. And at Miami, you got 2. So, you got to, at some point, you got to raise that number regardless how easy or hard the schedule is. Like, to me, there's no point winning 10, 11 games if you're just going to get crushed in the playoffs. The whole point of building this thing is building it to be as good as the teams that are competing and winning national championships, or why do it? You just add to the heartache. But they're on the right trajectory. I honestly do believe that, as much a pessimist as I am. And, it just takes time, but you can't have setbacks. And if they don't win, I would say even 9 wins this year might be considered like 9. You can consider make the bar 9. But to me, anything below 10 wins this year is a setback. A, because of the schedule. B, because it's year 3. I mean, there are coaches who in year 1 have tremendous success, in these situations. So it's got, to me, 10 wins or bust. 10 wins to me is the bar. That's the Matt Shodell bar. And I'm the guy who predicted 8 wins.
And 10 is without beating anybody really that good.
Right. I mean, for me,
I always is just winning games against average teams.
Right. I'm not even putting on orange and green glasses or as a fan. Just objectively, they should win 10 games. Like, that's just objective. That's not, I'm hoping they win 10 games. They should win 10 games. And if they don't, something's not right with what Mario Cristobal is building here.
Yeah. I mean, I'm acknowledging the game at Louisville is tough. I'm acknowledging that Florida State at home is going to be tough.
Those 2 games, they should be.
Yeah,
if they lose to Florida, it's like a joke.
Scares you.
Yeah, you can't lose. It scares you because if you lose to Florida, it's like, what the hell has happened? You can't lose that game. Like you said, you can't lose to Duke. Those are the 2 games.
I said I was scared at the beginning.
I'm changing my tune. I just want them to win 2 games. Just beat Florida and Duke. That's it. You can lose the rest of the games. As long as you win those 2, I'm happy.
All right, there's some other stuff.
I don't actually mean that.
There's some other stuff on the website. You mentioned the basketball team, and man, that game last night at Notre Dame was a little painful to watch. They are really struggling. Every 5 seconds, somebody else is getting hurt. Last night it was Matthew Cleveland, but they gutted it out and actually played a relatively decent last 5 minutes or so, and won at Notre Dame. So that makes them 4-4 after the beginning of the ACC schedule. They need to pick it up in the second half of the season if they want to make the tournament. Right now, they would be a bubble team at best, probably, based on their, the way they've been playing and their 1-loss record. So I don't know what the answer is. I like the move that Jim Larinaga made, putting Keyshawn George in the starting lineup, bringing Bensley Joseph off the bench. I like that move, but I would take it a step further and I would make him a point guard. I think, and try that and just see what it looks like with a big point guard. And but he's got to get his ball handling does have to get a little bit better. So we'll see. He has been letting him bring the ball up in spots, kind of mixing it up, I guess, so teams can't hone in on it. But right now, this is a struggling basketball team that doesn't really appear to be going anywhere. Wooga Poplar having a horrendous season, just really struggling with his shot. Doesn't look very good out there. Nigel Pack looks to me like a fish out of water. He's a knockdown shooter who's trying to be a point guard. Cleveland is up and down now. He's hurt a little bit. Norchad actually had an unbelievable game last night at Notre Dame after I thought he's been struggling quite a bit this season. So maybe he's turning the corner. But it's a basketball team that has a lot of work to do here. So we'll continue to monitor that. Let's see. I'll tell you something that we should talk about, even though it's a day old. We haven't had a show since it came out. And that's Jakari Brown.
Your favorite player. I was waiting for you to talk about your favorite player. Finally.
Well, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm taking shots at him because I'm not. But I was absolutely like wow when we listened to that podcast that he did. I'm not even sure who the guys were, but it's a couple, just a couple guys, I think from back home, if I'm not mistaken. But man, was he candid. Like, there was no doubt about his opinions on things, Matt. And he said some pretty funky stuff on that podcast.
I think he missed sports information. Don't talk to the media one-on-one. Because he was
going to see him talking to the media.
It was almost like this was almost, I don't want to use the term off the rails. So I know fans loved it because they never see players talk like this. So I loved it too because you just don't see this. But it was almost like those hot mic moments for politicians where it's like, Haley's never going to win, or whatever. that I think that was a throwaway line on a hot mic. So, but basically what Jakari said, I have a pretty good feeling Mario Cristobal was not happy about, because he, can I say put on blast? Is that like a young person's term? I don't know. But Frank Ponce and Josh Gaddis did not come off very well in Jakari Brown's line of thinking. He said of Josh Gaddis, quote, "The relationship just shattered," apparently because Josh Gaddis was coming at him as a person and not a player. I heard Josh Gaddis yelled a lot, so I assume that's what he's talking about. He said he was annoyed that Frank Ponce tried to change his stance because you recruited me, so obviously you liked me. Why would you try to change my stance? That's literally what he said. He said that Miami coaches were trying to get him to get his buddy Isaiah Bond to come to Miami, but that he, quote, is going to the highest bidder and went to Texas. Then, after sharing all these nuggets and some of this stuff that no player ever says out loud, Jakari declares that his goal this year is not to throw for 30 touchdowns and run for 30 touchdowns and pass for 4,000 yards, but to be on Miami's leadership council and teach all the other players how to speak their minds on podcasts with their friends, because I assume that's what he wants to teach them. He says he wants to be on the leadership council. I didn't write down his reasoning, but he said because he wanted to have a say in how things should change or be or something. It was the best interview I ever heard. I love Jakari Brown, and I hope he keeps doing these, like not just like every week or every month, but every single day, hopefully every single hour, because I was riveted. I could not get enough of it. To say I was chuckling throughout, thinking of Mario Cristobal's face getting redder and redder and redder as he hopefully didn't watch this because his head would have exploded, would be an understatement. But it was just awesome. Like, Jakari Brown's my favorite Hurricane of all time. Now, fans just loved it. I don't think fans maybe understood the repercussions of, Mario is like, he hired Frank Ponce. He hired Josh Gaddis. To have one of his own players saying, man, those were bad hires. Like, that's basically what Jakari said. It doesn't go over real well with the guy who hired them, probably. Plus, coaches don't like to throw other coaches under the bus. It's just a bad look. And having their players throw other coaches under the bus is just a bad look. But, like, that's not how fans see it. That's through a reporter's eyes. So I just loved it. I thoroughly loved it. Like, I was out at, I'm trying to coach a Howard Palmetto baseball team. I was out there last night, and I really enjoyed that because there's a lot of craziness that goes on out there also. And this was like 5 million times the craziness that was out there at those evaluations for Howard Palmetto baseball. I mean, it was just like, it was off the charts, man. I've never, ever, like, this is up there with that rap song that Craig Olsen did back in the day. What was that? The seventh floor, whatever.
Seventh Floor Crew, yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't like, well, there was cursing.
It wasn't that bad.
It wasn't like national news. It wasn't that bad. But, like, if Miami had just won the national title and Jakari did this, it would be splashed all over it would be on ESPN. It would be everywhere. Brown bashes former coaches. Like, you could make up 10 different headlines and write 10 different stories off what Jakari said in an hour and 12 minutes on this interview. I'm not even kidding. Like, it was really riveting.
All right. So if you haven't seen that, make sure you check it out. It's on the website, and was just really, really something.
He also said that he has ADD, but he doesn't treat it. And then he said Aaron Feld has ADD. He threw Aaron Feld under the bus. Like, this, I can't, I can't even tell you how many different, this is just like little things that he just threw out there, like, at different times. I mean, it was like hysterical. He is the best. Like, Jakari is the best, speaks his mind, no holds barred. And that's why fans love him. He's got so much charisma, such, you see when he's talking, like, he's so passionate. He wants to live on a ranch. He says if somebody gives him enough money today, he'll quit football forever and just live on a ranch the rest of his life.
Go get a ranch in Texas.
He doesn't care about football. He just needs money. This is his ticket. He doesn't care. Like, he says he loves football, but then he doesn't love football because he would just, if you give him the money, he'll stop playing right now and live on his ranch. But he wants a big ass ranch. That's what he said. Big ass ranch. I don't know what's going to be on the ranch. I assume he'll have Frank Ponce feeding the chickens and Josh Gaddis tending the cows. But, I don't know what he would do on this ranch. But but he seems very excited to have a ranch by getting a lot of money from somebody who will pay him to stop playing football. That was literally what he said. He said, if somebody will give me a lot of money to stop playing football, I'll have a ranch.
And the other one that blew my mind was when he talked about how he stands up in quarterback meetings and starts doodling. Like,
well, he said that's his ADD. Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
He says he understands everything and pays attention. And the other interesting thing, which I don't think anyone reported this, and this could be another headline, right? He said that he asked to redshirt after coaches told him they wanted to use him as a runner in games, like to put a package in where he'll just be running the ball as a quarterback, like a wildcat, in other words. And that's when he said, you know what, I'd rather redshirt, which I don't think anyone knew that. I think people's perception was like somehow before the fall practice or early in fall, before Emory Williams was going to beat him out or something, that Jakari told coaches, listen, make Emory the backup. I don't want to play this year. I need to redshirt. I recognize that. But apparently that's not how it went down. Apparently the coaches explained to him what his role was going to be, and he said, I want a redshirt. Is basically what he said. I mean, like, I'm not making it up. Like, that's just what he said. So I don't know. There's just a lot. It was a lot of, very smart move.
Smart move, because
he's very self-aware. He said when he first came in, he was playing terrible. Like, he recognizes his accuracy is not great. He said that. He understands. He's very self-aware. And he's also just very willing to share information that most players wouldn't, which is great. I do that all the time on this show. I shouldn't say stuff, and I say it. I tell my wife, don't watch this show because I spoke about X, Y, and Z. She's like, why would you talk about X, Y, and Z? I'm like, because apparently Jakari and I have a lot in common, because we just say things and we don't care. Like, if it's the truth, we speak our truth. And that's what Jakari did. And that's what I do about the Hurricanes every day on this show. So good for Jakari.
So we also have a ton of recruiting coverage on the website today. I'm not going to go through every story because there's several of them, but it's all pointing towards this weekend, which is just a massive recruiting weekend. You got the best 7-on-7 teams from all across the country coming into town for the Battle 7-on-7 Miami tournament. So they're going to be visiting campus Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then you also have Junior Day at Miami on Saturday, which is just an absolute it's a cluster, to be honest with you. It's like a lot of kids come out. It's very difficult for the coaches to spend proper time with all of them. It's very difficult for us to cover it properly because we got to figure out who's who and all that. And it's just a lot of kids. But that's coming up this weekend, and we will be doing that for you and bringing you a lot of coverage of that. So we are building towards that with preview stories, and there's several of them on the website today, including a look at the list of kids that we've been able to confirm are among those coming on Saturday. So make sure you check that out. Well, that's going to do it for today for Good Morning CaneSport. Thank you so much for starting out your day with us. If you like this show, like our channel, hit your subscribe and like buttons. It helps us with the algorithms at YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, do that. If you're not yet a subscriber to CaneSport.com, I'm going to pop this special up on the screen. We got a special offer for you, $1 for your first 2 months. Come join our community of fans. You will not be sorry. Use the code CANES1, CANES1, and that will give you the $1 special for your first 2 months. And we hope you stay with us after that for the rest of your life, because we do our best to enhance your fan experience every single day. So for Matt Shodell, I'm Gary Ferman. Thanks again, everybody, and we will see you next time.